Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests. Despite what I had to say earlier in table topics, certainly the name of the game is staying positive. It's something that we all try to do because it helps us to function. It helps us to get through our days. If we allow ourselves to become victims of the negative, and this is something I've spoken of before, we can become helpless. We become unable to cope with the world around us. And certainly it's much easier to stay negative because we're constantly surrounded by the negative. It's much easier to look around you and see the problems with the economy, to see the coworker that you're fighting with, to see the boss who bullies you. I can relate to that very strongly. About 20 years ago, when I was at the district attorney's office in Brooklyn, New York, I had a boss who I felt beat up on me incessantly. And I would lay in bed night after night thinking of new and creative ways for her to die. Getting hit by a bus was always one of my favorites. And these are things that get into your head and they become circular. And they go round and around and around and around, and you can't stop them. And they just make you more and more negative. And when we're thinking negative thoughts, our bodies secrete negative chemicals, and they can make us sick. And ultimately, it's really not a good thing. So there's an entire industry devoted to making us more positive. And certainly, Toastmasters is part of it. How can we stay more positive? We talk about self-talk. We talk about writing down our goals. We talk about getting things in front of our eyes on an ongoing basis, putting sayings up on the wall in the bathroom so that we see them when we walk in the morning. Anything to keep us in a more positive frame of mind, thinking about moving forward, thinking about being better, thinking about improving our situation rather than being victimized by the situation as it is, by our status quo. So, I started thinking, that was for effect, damn it. I started thinking, what can we do to keep our minds focused on the positive? Have we all had the experience of hearing a song, maybe a commercial jingle, that gets stuck in our head, and it goes round and round and round, and we can't get it out? Well, wouldn't it be wonderful if that was a positive message that was stuck in your head that continued to make you think positive thoughts? And then I heard a song on the radio from a lesser-known musical called Seesaw by a fellow named Cy Coleman, who wrote many, many Broadway musicals. The lyrics to the song go like this. It's not where you start, it's where you finish. It's not how you go, it's how you land. The 100-to-1 shot, they call him a klutz, can outrun the favorite. All he needs is the guts. Your final return will not diminish, and you can be the cream of the crop. It's not where you start, it's where you finish. And you're going to finish on top. It's a lovely little message. In a moment, I'll let you hear the catchy tune. But that got me thinking about how many other songs are out there that have a similar effect. Broadway shows, and some of you may know that I have been related to the theater in a former life. Broadway shows are full of songs in which characters are trying to convince themselves or others to stay positive and move forward. Very good example. Who's familiar with Rodgers and Hammerstein's The King and I? Well, there's a song in The King and I that goes like this. Whenever I feel afraid, I hold my head erect and whistle a happy tune so no one will suspect I'm afraid. While shivering in my shoes, I strike a careless pose and whistle a happy tune so no one ever knows I'm afraid. Okay, that's a good example. Let's turn to Julie Stein and Stephen Sondheim. Stephen Sondheim, who has written so many, that deserves a day. Somebody did it. Julie Stein, who has written so many musicals. Stephen Sondheim, who's familiar with this. When Mama Rhodes sees her daughter, Dainty June, go running off with her boyfriend, and her act is on the ropes, she convinces her other daughter that she can step right in and take over. And she sings, "Things look swell, things look great, gonna have the whole world on a plate. Starting here, starting now, honey, everything's coming up roses." Try repeating that while you're driving down the road. Can that keep you in a positive frame of mind? I suggest that it can. What I'm going to share with you now is the song I began with. I find it's a great help to me. I try to keep it in my head. And it's a great encouragement to me. It's not where you start, it's where you finish. It's not how you go, it's how you land. The 100-to-1 shot, they call him a klutz, can outrun the favorite, all he needs is the guts. Your final return will not diminish, and you can be the cream of the crop. It's not where you start, it's where you finish, and you're gonna finish on top. Mr. Toastmaster.